how do you know what the AI system needs?
The most value is after you've birthed one of these agents into the world, can you go back and say, hey, give me the money you made? Like that's where the human in the loop click is going to be the most valuable.
But it feels like that's about to flip. It feels like with MCP, agents like getting more contextual awareness about themselves, agents will start to prompt the humans.
Welcome back to The Roll Up.
This is your home to learn from the biggest guests, the brightest minds at the tip of innovation.
Our goal is to help spread the collective knowledge of everyone in our community.
We are breaking crypto out of its echo chamber and taking it to the real world.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy it.
Jordan, welcome to the show. Absolutely. First question is, this AI Supercycle is the name of our show. Supercycle was pioneered and kind of coined by Suzu, Three Arrows Capital, and he called for a crypto supercycle. This was kind of in contrast to the 4-year cycle and kind of the traditional boom and bust cycles that we had seen in crypto. My first question to you is, do you see this AI, this CapEx, all of this investment going into AI? Is this a AI bubble, or do you see an AI super cycle at play here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's a combination of both. There's no way that we're breaking the pattern of people getting excited about new technology, being overzealous, and expecting more from it than is actually possible. That's just what happens with any new technology. There's like the Garter hype cycle, and that's part of it. The bubble like exists in that cycle. The good news is all of the capital going into these things means that what we're able to do is tons of experimentation to find the right product market fit for the new technology, so that after the bubble has burst and we've gone through the disillusionment and everybody's fed up with it, that we get back to a place where we have like legit applied use cases that make a lot of sense. So from that regard, yeah, we're in a bubble in a sense, but then also like this is part of a super cycle where the nature of technology is changing and the nature of work is changing. And that's what has PublicAI really excited about what we're doing is like, as we see the nature of work changing, jobs changing, things like that, we're ensuring that humans have a place in that we're able to capture value and that we're able to like pay people for participating in these systems.
Got it. Okay. Now, we hear a lot about AI coming and displacing the labor market, automating a lot of tasks, and people being out of work. But I have a feeling when you describe changes happening and the future of work being vastly different from how it is today, I have a feeling it kind of goes a little bit deeper than just people losing their jobs. Could you just unpack a little bit more what you mean when you say like labor and work is going to look very, very different? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So whenever a new technology comes in the nature of labor shifts, there is always like fear, and jobs, would say, like transform more than they disappear. Like new kinds of labor start to exist. And what we're doing at Public AI is focusing on data, which has been valuable even before the AI super cycle. In the Web 2 world, large companies were able to make money because they would harvest users' data and then resell it or use it for their own purposes. Basically, the Web2 model of if you're not paying for it, you're the product, which means that you're generating data which can be used for commercialization. So what Public AI is doing is focusing on data as this like thing that's been valuable since the beginning of commerce and trade. Like having an informational edge is how you trade better than other people.
Mhm.
And we're paying people directly for participating in a system that lets them opt in to sharing their data, contributing to smarter AI. And then on the other side, we have clients that know the value of this, want to source their data ethically so they don't wind up in legal quagmires, and also need like niche on-demand data that isn't possible to get at through just scraping or through synthetic means. So we're filling that need for the AI market, but having come from a marketing background, have seen like the trajectory of data markets in general being like a strong theme.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, this is interesting to parse through because I think there's a lot of people that are understanding that AI is coming. They don't want to see their jobs displaced. They want to participate in this market, but they're not quite sure how. And
Mm.
so when I see kind of these data labeling companies pop up or these data markets pop up, such as PublicAI, how can people get involved? We know that we have our data. We're constantly getting, if we download a new app, it's always like, hey, do you want to give permission to this thing to access your data? And I'm always like, I don't know. Sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no. It's just kind of like whatever I feel like that day. Is there a general rule of thumb that we can give people, or that you suggest, or that you use yourself? What is the general rule of thumb when it comes to our data and the permissions that we give to some of these external applications?
Yeah, yes. You see those shrink wraps so often that you kind of turn your brain off when you're clicking on them, but that's how they get you and they get your data. In some cases, it's worth the trade-off. You've got to make a personal distinction on your own whether like the service you're being offered is worth it, and if there's alternatives out there that you can opt for, whether it's open source or there's companies like Proton, which is
Mhm.
headed heralded by a foundation, like a nonprofit foundation, to make a product that is like data privacy focused. So there's options out there. And Web3 is also part of that. There's a lot of decentralized software that you can use too. But to make it really tangible for people, and if you don't see the value of your data, then it's very easy to click it away and not really be motivated to do it, because I don't think that privacy is really that top of mind for most people. The convenience outweighs any privacy concerns they have. But when you start putting economic incentives on the table, then they start to realize, oh, this is valuable, and maybe I can do something with it. And that's when they're motivated more so to participate in systems like public AI. And to make public AI a little bit more tangible, like we run campaigns on a regular basis. So like today, if you visit public AI, you can sign up and participate. Currently, we're running like a mother tongue campaign where people can come speak in their native language and earn up to $4 a day for recording short audio samples, like sentence length audio samples. So that that's something that like makes people realize the value of their data. They're actually showing up. They're getting paid out. It's better than necessarily like a gig economy where you've got to wait 2 weeks for a paycheck or something like that. You're getting USDT as soon as your data is approved. So that's kind of what we're focusing on, is making this like immediate and tangible for participants in the systems. Um, and yeah, that's how we've grown to like over 3 million users now. I think the last time I checked, we were at like 3.5 million contributors with like something like 300K showing up every month, monthly active users. So people are
Very
excited
cool.
about it.
Very cool. And these are real people. These aren't AIs, fact checking other AIs.
Yeah, yeah, real human value, human in the loop.
Very cool. You mentioned privacy, which is kind of all the rage these days. Zcash has been getting a ton of attention. Generally, there's more of a feeling around privacy. I think also the recent surge in gold and people kind of flocking to these things that they feel like are safe havens. Even though they're kind of just a meme in and of itself, like most things, they do have kind of this sense of sovereignty when they come to gold and they come to a privacy-based coin. Why do you characterize privacy as such an important form and characteristic of AI? When you're building these things out, you mentioned privacy as something that maybe isn't forefront in a lot of in a lot of the users' minds, but maybe it should be. Generally, what is your perception of privacy as it relates to AI and kind of this evolving technological world?
Yeah, I think that it becomes more and more relevant as we integrate AI into more parts of our lives. Even before the AI hype and it being called AI, we had machine learning and applied machine learning, and that's where my co-founder, Dr. Stephen Wong, has his roots, is in applied machine learning. So that world, at one point it was just in your inbox, but now it's in your smart home. It's in your generative chat, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you're using, and if you're sharing intimate details for it, searching for health, medical things, whatever else, that is like an intimate touch point in your life. So privacy um, could become more of a concern for people. But again, like it while it's becoming a little bit more of the vernacular, it also doesn't seem like something that is like the number one driver for people's behavior. Because even in the Web 2 days, when search was already being driven by machine learning, and people understood that, like, oh, I'm getting ads because I searched for something, that didn't prevent them from Googling anymore.
Right.
Like it's something that as AI gets implemented in government and people start seeing more impact on it and what their profiles look like and all the places Plantier shows up, then it might become more newsworthy and kind of top of mind for people. But I think that it's really like the hardcore Web3 cypherpunks that are going to be championing this and driving that messaging so that people understand, oh, cryptography and privacy, are something that we do have to fight for and establish as a human right, for it to like really take foothold in the memosphere and zeitgeist.
Yeah. Yeah. And we kind of see these surges of it when there's greater uncertainty in the world. I think people kind of they kind of hunker down, if you will. It's almost like a not necessarily a doomer mindset, but like a little bit of a prepper sovereignty. Like I can't really rely on someone else, to give me, my sustenance. Got to kind of figure it out on our own. And privacy and sovereignty are very intertwined in that regard. Um, Now, you guys have launched this. I'm curious what the pipeline looks like, right? Because I think it is intuitive. Look, we've all been training these AIs for a long time, right? I label fire hydrants and streetlights on my captchas, every time I try to log in somewhere and prove that I'm not a robot, right?
Yeah.
And so we're training, these algorithms. We're training machine learning and these AI systems in that way. And I think people they're really familiar with that because honestly, people on the internet have been doing captchas for so long. And that's effectively what we're doing. But there's a data pipeline that's downstream once it does get labeled. And so I'm just curious, when you're thinking about this data pipeline, where is the labeling process? If we're looking almost for like this, we don't want black box AI, right? We don't want something that has some intrinsic bias that has been almost like spoiled or manipulated by some power, whether that's OpenAI or that's some other company that is choosing to spoil it and kind of slant it in a particular direction. So where does labeling come into play, and how do we leverage this decentralized data labeling process to ultimately give us like organic, untouched AI?
Yeah. So talking about the pipeline kind of gets us back to the client side of things. And honestly, I think that privacy and sovereignty and like the authenticity of data is much more top of mind for people on that side than on the consumer side. Like, to be able to have a competitive product, you need data that other people don't have. To be able to have a product that works with consistency and doesn't hallucinate and actually is reliable and cost effective to run, you need to like have that data edge and train a model that's more efficient and more precise. So on that side, the privacy is a much bigger deal, and the having a traceable like trail of where the data comes from, that it is authentic, that you aren't going to wind up in litigation for training with the data, matters a lot more.
Mm.
As far as the pipeline and like where human value comes in, public AI is really focused on sourcing because that's the roughest edge where it's the hardest to reach people. Our network is kind of like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon for any area of expertise. So if somebody needs like luxury good experts or pet experts or speaking a specific language or a specific dialect of a language, we're able to go and reach those people, enough of them to be able to train models effectively no matter what the business use case is. So that's kind of like where we're focused right now. But then when we talk about like scaling across verticals and other places where we see human value fitting into the value chain, labeling is there. AI labeling is getting better and better, but for every new use case, you at least need a set of samples to start with to get the AI labeling like up to par. So like those edge use cases, with the boom of AI and people being able to multiply their impact, there's going to be a lot more solopreneurs, new startups that need applied data for their models, things like that. So in that sense of tackling new use cases, human labeling makes sense for the first set of samples to be able to train out the AI to be able to label better in the future and do differentiation. And it's not an easy problem. Like one of the things that we deal with is, fakes. We do have people, because we have incentives in place, showing up and trying to farm it with AI generated voices or robot voices and things like that. So after trying out all of the competitors in the space for being able to detect fakes and things like that, we had to roll our own for our use case. So that's just one example of like how hard it is to apply AI for specific use cases, and why it's necessary to have like that first layer of labeling done by people to be able to train something that's efficient for a specific use case. And then after that, you get into like human in the loop for training the model. And then also after that, you have human in the loop for usage of the model. So rating, inference, and things like that. And those are places that we see are valuable. And as we grow our business, we'll be expanding to those. But right now, data's hot.
Hibachi. Provable. Trade perps with speed and security. Earn rewards. Visit hibachi.xyz. Trading on fire. Relay. Low fees, lightning speed, and the power of multi-chain at your fingertips. Instant multi-chain payments. Choose any token on any chain. 75 plus networks supported. More than 5 million users. 8 billion plus volume processed. 70 million plus transactions, fast, reliable, everywhere. Start swapping today, only on Relay. The wait is over. The Talus testnet is live. Be part of the revolution. Join now at testnet.talus.network.
You mentioned a couple times. I'm just curious. Is there a general like nomenclature when it comes to human in the loop? Is that a protocol or a process that is typical when in AI companies to kind of give it a human feel? Like what is the purpose of human in the loop?
Yeah, it's usually abbreviated like HITL, and it's a commonly used term in the industry and research segment for AI. And it applies whenever you do have a human in the loop for the training process or inference feedback, for data gathering, anywhere where you do have the human touch. And the research goes back and forth on, oh, we made a breakthrough that means we don't need humans anymore, and then another paper comes out that says, oh my god, if we don't have humans, everything just collapses. So our bet is with the humans. We're putting our chips on the humans.
Love it. Yeah, I think that's a good place to bet. The odds are in our favor. We got a comment here in the chat. It says, "This is so interesting. Will research public AI." This is from Monica. The biggest issue is data governance and applied data.
Yeah.
Do you agree with this?
Yeah, I think that when you're talking about data governance, like that's one of the reasons why we decided to take a Web3 approach and actually launch a token that gives people a stake in the platform. So if people go out there and earn or buy public, they have a stake not just in their data that is now for sale, but also the platforms, the means. They've got like their hands on the shovels, and they own the shovels they're using to mine this data. So for us, that kind of like sovereignty and governance angle was really important, and why we took this approach rather than a traditional Web2 approach is to give people an opportunity to own the tools that they're earning with. And that comes from my own like background and Stephen's as well, where like in college I was doing pirate radio to support local unions and things like that. So I've always had like an interest in empowering people, building platforms to elevate them, and give them an opportunity to have a stake in what they believe in and what they're contributing to. So governance, huge deal, and yeah, it all gets real when you apply it.
Yeah. And you guys chose to launch this token and generally the incentive mechanism on Near. The show's presented by Near. We also understand that they are, pioneering, especially some of the privacy enabled elements of AI as they make crypto, and then also connecting some of these ecosystems to the broader landscape, connecting with the recent Near Intense launch that they had to Zcash, to Ethereum, and generally broadening this ecosystem. Why did you choose to launch the public AI system on Near? And like you mentioned, you have 3 million users. Ultimately, these people, do they realize that they're interacting with the Near blockchain, or to them, does it just look like, hey, I'm kind of providing this piece of human touch, and I'm getting rewarded for it, and that's great for them.
Yeah. Yeah, so for us, like I have a background with the Near ecosystem. I actually got into the Web3 space through an opportunity to work on DAO software, going back to governance,
Nice.
with Ilya Polasukin, when I was just getting started in Web3. So that's what got me to leave my cushy Google job and jump into this space with both feet. Was like, okay, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Get to work with the Transformers paper guy on some exciting new technology. And governance at the time was also a really hot topic. So getting to build like DAO infrastructure and early NFT infrastructure at Near Foundation was a real pleasure. So I had familiarity with the ecosystem. I knew about the awesome UX of the wallets and how it's great for onboarding. And then like what we use Web3 for is paying people. And
Right.
I think that that's like what Web3 is best at. But I also see a perfect marriage between AI and Web3, like giving AI agents digital native like currencies and wallets makes
Mhm.
perfect sense and allows them to transact in like digital native ways. So while Web3 is kind of like clunked around and looked for a use case besides payments, the AI age has given it a new life. And with Near being so focused on AI, I mean, it came from the AI space to begin with.
Mhm.
um, it just really made sense to go with a chain where payments are fast and cheap,
Mhm.
allows you to bridge anywhere with near intent. So it doesn't matter if you're a Web3 user coming in and looking to like bridge your token somewhere, you can do it easily. Um, or you're a Web2 user experiencing this for the first time. And in the life cycle of a user on public AI, you can log in with Google or Twitter or whatever else, email, and do your contributions. And the point where you start caring about blockchain is when you get paid. And it's at that point that we
Right.
kind of like make sure that people have a wallet connected and they're able to claim their tokens and have instructions on what to do with them next, things like that. So I see that
Yeah.
overall in Web3 is the best way to go about onboarding users is you don't put up a big barrier in front where you're like, hey, go learn about crypto and Web3 before you even touch our product, whatever our product is.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is what I think the people who have the most foresight in building these applications, they understand that, look, this is infrastructure, and at a certain point it's meant to be invisible. People
Yeah.
want to get paid. They want to get paid in an efficient and seamless way, but they don't want to have to change their consumer behavior in order to interact with this technology. They want to just get paid. And if it happens to be efficient and it happens to be more cost effective than the alternative, perfect. But
Yep.
they don't want to have to adapt or learn or cross all of these bridges or all of these things in order to ultimately take the opportunity that they have at their disposal. And that's what they're doing here. They're just kind of getting paid, and it just so happens that blockchains are a great mechanism to pay people. I'm curious, as you've built this out and you've onboarded millions of users, how you anticipate us interacting with the AI economy going forward. When you mentioned, blockchains are great for paying people, that makes a ton of sense. They're great for people paying people. They're also great for AI paying humans and humans paying AI. And so I think as the machine economy develops, we're going to start to see this play out more and more. Right now on public AI, is how do you know what the AI system needs? Like, how do you know that we're at a point where, look, we've got a real gap in this particular language, right? We really need people to upload, uh, Vietnamese like sound bites, right? Or like pictures of this food, or how do you know that there's kind of that piece of data that's missing, and ultimately send out this request to the human layer to provide that data?
Yeah, so we're a traditional revenue-driven company in that regard. Like clients come to us requesting data, and that's what gives us the resources that we need to reward the community. So clients come and pay us in fiat, and then we issue rewards proportional to that for the community to go and get the data that they need.
Okay.
With enterprise clients, it's usually pretty clear cut. They know exactly what they're after data wise, and we're just filling the need of being able to get niche on demand data for them that they can't get through their like centralized factories or any other means. And then for the small medium businesses, startups, younger teams, there's usually a little bit more handholding and like learning what they're solving with AI, what data is going to actually be necessary to help them get that tuned, and then running the campaigns for them. And the way it works for clients, if there's any founders out there listening, is like after an intake call, we'll like figure out how much data you need to verify that it's like what like the quality is good enough and that it's useful for training. So we'll do like a small test campaign, like a month or a week long, around that with the right incentives in place so that you have an understanding of how much it'll cost to run the campaign. And after we get that initial run done, we can scale it like as large as you want with our huge contributor base. So comes from client demand and a little bit of alpha. One of the things we're working on right now and really excited about is an MCP service allowing AI agents to make their own data requests directly on the platform. So it would be like a permissionless self-service portal that would allow startups to interact with it through an AI interface to be able to run a data campaign, but also allows agents to come in and say like, hey, I've been hearing about this thing. I want more data on this thing. I'm going to go pay for it with tokens, which is a pretty exciting prospect.
Asset management redefined, built on ERC 7621. Standardize how you launch, manage, and trade on-chain baskets. This is Alvara, the standard for on-chain asset management. Blockchain shortcuts, templates, and widgets. Launch without friction. For builders, by builders. Visit enso.build.
So let me just make sure I understand this. The idea is that an AI agent, maybe it's and Ilya was actually on this show and kind of enlightened us to the fact that you could have these totally organic agents that are born out of smart contracts that have no biases injected into them. And so if you have something, you can verify the code, you kind of create this agent out of the smart contract, and then maybe its modus operandi is to go build some trading algorithm, and it needs to get a bunch of backtesting history, right? It can go, maybe it is also attached to a wallet. We can fund it. It can go request certain data sets on PublicAI through MCP without ever having a human kind of like tell it to go make this request or making its the request for it. It can kind of just discover on its own this ability to request the data from the humans that have the data.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the really exciting developments in the last few weeks has been NanoChat, which is like a 1-bit model framework from like scratch that you can run on a local GPU and like train your own AI for like $30. And if we're talking about the smart contract version of this and being able to like bootstrap a model without any biases and then have it grow from there, the next step for that 1-bit model is like, oh, what am I lacking? Why don't I go get some data for that so that I can train the 32-bit version of myself and like continue to grow? So it's we talk about AGI and these pieces are coming together, which are like really fascinating. And that's a whole rabbit hole to go down as far as like, oh, how the markets have already been machinations that have been running and have their own kind of like, I wouldn't say consciousness, but they have their own like motivations and everything.
They're right. They're starting to recognize things about themselves, strengths, weaknesses, and they're starting to generate self-awareness to the extent that now now they have this contextual awareness about themselves. It is only just beginning now that they can go do something about it.
Yep.
Right, with MCP, they can go start to make these requests. But I want to just back up just for a moment. Could you give us a refresher about MCP? Because I think there was a nice wash of it kind of like on socials, and we all kind of learned about it together when it first came out. But could you give us a refresher? I think that was a few months ago when I first heard about it. What generally, what is MCP, and kind of catch us up on things that might have happened over the last few weeks to months?
Yeah, so MCP is Model Context Protocol, and it's just one way to do agent-to-agent communication. And that's the nutshell, is like agent-to-agent communication in a way that makes sense. It also gives agents access to tools outside of like what they already have inside of their knowledge and understanding. So it's kind of like APIs for agents. So instead of like in the old Web 2 days of making an API so your website can talk to other websites, get tools, get information. Instead, you would have your agent using MCP to be able to go do a calculation or go get a data feed, things like that. MCP is just one approach. There's other approaches that are handling this problem of like how do agents get access to resources that are outside of their inference and their existing models. So that's all MCP is. I think that like Cloud is working on a similar thing called Skills, and there's a few approaches, but MCP has kind of become the de facto, at least for the moment, that a lot of people are building on.
And it makes sense for this to be a shared standard, all right? Because then those rules kind of apply to all of the agents, and we don't get these walled gardens where you're only composable with certain sets of the agents and other ones are only composable with certain sets. Ideally, we kind of have this really, really broad and diverse ecosystem of agents that are able to interact with one another.
Yep, only makes them stronger and more capable.
Yeah, I mean, coming back and coming full circle to our first thing that we had here, thinking about how the labor market has changed. Right now the predominant resource that we have at our fingertips is AI. You and I, we're humans, we're in the labor economy, and we're prompting AIs, give us information, answer our questions. But it feels like that's about to flip. It feels like with MCP, agents like getting more contextual awareness about themselves, agents will start to prompt the humans. Agents will prompt the humans, and the humans will be the ones feeding them information instead of the other way around right now, and humans prompting the AIs. Is this your vision? Do you see this playing out?
Yeah, you start weighing the balance and the value of like where is human in the loop valuable. And from a human's perspective, the most value is after you've birthed one of these agents into the world, can you go back and say, hey, give me the money you made? Like that's where the human in the loop click is going to be the most valuable.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
they're like, where are these agents coming from? If you're thinking in a non-abstract way, they're there because somebody wants to get something done, whether that's running social media or trading on their behalf or so on. So there's got to be some kind of like output that's valuable to people. Otherwise, like, what's it running for? And yes, there will be experiments of like letting it run for its own sake and things like that, and we'll see how far those go and in what directions. But for human context and value, there's got to be something to click on to get what you want back out.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in the last few moments here, I know you're obviously building this business and this protocol that's running on Near. They've got a ton of composability benefits. There's open source models that are on there. There's tons of tooling and infrastructure. A really popular narrative that kind of took hold for a while was these agents on Twitter, these kind of like Twitter reply agents, not the spammy ones that are still in all of our comments, but the fart coins and the AI 16Zs of the world that actually did get some money put into them. Are you bullish on this category? What do you think comes out of all of these agent coins and these sorts of things?
Yeah, I mean, I also run like my own art and tech nonprofit collective, so have been kind of like watching the space evolve and seeing the kind of like art experiments and financial experiments happening here. And I think that Truth Terminal is the killer use case in this category of like a really well done experiment that is gaining some traction and has some interesting like philosophical things to say about like how these things are playing out. Um, from our end at PublicAI, we're going to be launching a VTuber streaming channel with partnership with AI TV, where we have a character that covers like the latest in DAI news, things like that, and people can interact with her. When they do so, they're like spending some on-platform points that then buys them public tokens. So we're fascinated with it from like a marketing and community and engagement standpoint, and I think that as a marketer, like if you're not leveraging AI tools, then you're just not multiplying yourself enough. So we're excited about it from that perspective, and also like I'm personally interested in seeing like where these experiments go philosophically, and how they kind of like figure out those questions of when we do give the agent its own like agency and we don't preload it with our own preconceptions, like where does it go? Artists are going to figure this stuff out.
Yeah. Wow. This is fascinating, fascinating stuff. Man, I feel like we could pontificate on like where this goes, what are the philosophical implications of it. But I mean, it's still too early to see. We're going to see this play out in real time. And I think you're right. We're just continually adding more tools. Like it's almost like we're giving the agents its hands. We're giving it feet. Now it can go run. It can go ask questions. It can go, if we give it some money, it can go pay for things and get these things and ultimately include it into its own arsenal.
Yeah. Yep.
It's fascinating things that are playing out. If you're kind of placing your chips here, where do you broadly, like, just what are you bullish on? What are you bearish on? I love the DEAI like TV AI TV channel. Maybe there's even a mashup that we could do with the roll up where we bring them on roll up TV. We have a co-host, right, which is an AI agent. So that's some place where you see a lot of room for potential. Where else do you see room for potential? And then where do you think, maybe this category of AI is a little bit overblown? What are you, secular bullish and bearish within the AI category?
Yeah. So we're obviously bullish on data and the space in general. We're friends with the other people who are doing decentralized data plays like Sapien and others, where in the old world of data, all of the agencies and firms that were doing data sales had revenue share programs where like, oh, I can't get this data, but I know this market research firm is an expert on it, so I'm going to partner with them, get the data, and they'd get a cut. So we're seeing the same thing kind of play out in the decentralized data space, where the more of us are playing together on solving the data problems of the world in a decentralized way, sharing clients, sharing deals, the stronger the industry is going to grow, and we're all going to grow together. So super bullish on that. Even with the co-opetition in the space, seeing it as being like healthy and growing. And then the things that like I'm less bullish on, I would say, are maybe like decentralized compute and storage. These kind of like commodity things. It's novel, but it's also hard to solve the coordination and make it available for like on-demand usage. And also like usually commodity problems, a company can just like, if they have money, they just solve it by going to the easiest solution that has the most SLA uptime, something like that, versus like risking going to a slightly cheaper decentralized solution. So like commodity stuff, a little bit more bearish on that, but things that you can't get anywhere else, like niche on-demand data, like totally bullish on that.
Dude, I'm so incredibly bullish on the human in the loop, but not just broad strokes. Like any human can submit anything, but maybe there is room for that, and then we can have a market to price it. But ultimately, these AI agents, as if public AI can become the go-to venue for agents because it has this moat of data and the network effects start to build in that regard, the distribution becomes so key, and we start to have like these venues, like these town squares where AI needs to go to the market, like the supermarket, in order to get its sustenance. Well, its sustenance is data, and it needs to get the data from humans.
Absolutely. Yep. Got to feed the AI good food. We got it over at PublicAI.
Awesome. Jordan, man, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on such short notice too. I'm really looking forward to hearing some more of the updates and what's coming out of PublicAI as you guys continue to grow and MPC becomes online. It starts to get a lot more popularity. I think this entire space is just going to get a lot more popular and a lot more activity as agents and humans both realize this inevitability.
Yeah, absolutely. Exciting times ahead. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon, Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.